high school teacher, I know that there is no better time slot than after lunch on Friday. Except for maybe after lunch on Saturday. So, first of all, thanks to the League. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I have a history of the League, which I'll go back to my first years of teaching in the Bay Area. And also thanks to the presenters who came before. I wish I had known all of the great things that you were going to talk about. I would have included some extra slides in the presentation. As it is, you're not going to get to see the plug-in diesel-electric hybrid bus that one of our schools won. We didn't include that in the presentation. Also not included is the battery recharging stations for the consumer batteries that Livermore High School has implemented. And one of our schools also installed a permeable parking lot that is lighter in color, so water can filter through and recharge the groundwater, and it's not black asphalt, so it has a lower heat island effect. So those aren't in there. At the end, I'll show you a website where you can find some of that stuff. So I'm at the Alameda County Office of Education. I'm on loan from the Fremont Unified School District, where I taught for 10 years. And at the Alameda County Office of Ed, I coordinate a project called the Service Learning Waste Reduction Project, which is funded by Learn and Serve America. It's a Corporation for National Community Service money, the same folks that fund AmeriCorps. They also fund programs that school-age children involved in service that helps them learn specific skills. But our major funder on this project is StopWaste.org. So we are working with 30 schools across Alameda County to work with teams of teachers and students to find ways to reduce waste on campus and in the community through service projects. So, the question here is, what can you do? I'm going to be talking about what young people are doing, hopefully inspire you on some of their actions. But also, how do you consider your role in policy advocates, in people who are very engaged in the political process, and have you think about some of the challenges schools are faced with. Some of them are financial, but a lot of them are policy decisions that are making this type of work more difficult than it should be for teachers to do. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So 2 parts of this: service learning and waste reduction. The waste reduction is probably the most familiar to you, finding ways to send less to the landfill. Service learning might be a new term. It's similar to community service, except for that it carries a very specific learning goal. And this is where I want to reference my history with the League. I taught U.S. history in an American Studies class, a combination of U.S. history and American Lit. Again, teaching in Fremont, there's a really high percentage of first-generation Americans, a lot of immigrants who are becoming citizens. And in U.S. history, the first standard is a review of American democratic principles. The second standard is immigration to the United States. And that gets taught in the fall, usually right before election season. So we would do a service learning project in the class where representatives from the League would come in and talk about the democratic process with the students, the importance of voting, and then we would work with the League to set up opportunities for our students to help register new voters. So our students were learning about the political process through the opportunity to register voters in Fremont, who were largely first-generation American or new citizens. So a little bit of context about what service learning is. In terms of the Service Learning Waste Reduction Project, we work with teachers in all different content areas. So most traditionally we get science teachers who are trying to find ways to teach science standards through life cycle analysis, data collection, systems, material science, and other types of opportunities when you think about waste reduction. But we work with all teachers, and this is waste reduction assembly. So on the service learning side, what is a service that a drama class can provide? Well, they can provide educational outreach, they can do edutainment to entertain and inspire younger students. But what's their learning? You don't really have a standard in drama to learn about waste reduction. So it's not in the book, not the thing that CDE is interested about students learning when they're taking a performing arts class. What they are interested in learning about in performing arts is how to write and develop a script, how to set and stage a production, how to produce costumes, how to organize a performance schedule. So we work with the Circus Center, who comes in and teaches students circus skills, and then the high school students use what they've learned. They collaborate with the Circus Center to produce these student-written, student-produced, student-performed recycling assemblies in their attendance area. So this is Slimy the Worm. She had a fantastic solo singing all about the benefits of composting. So we got reduce, recycle, and rot. So this is near the finale of the show. That's Irvington High School down in Fremont, a fantastic advanced drama program. Skyline High School in Oakland is another one of our fantastic partners in this. They produced a show. It was very much kind of a Twilight Zone performance, imagining a dystopian future, kind of in the Christmas Carol mode, where you get all these ghosts coming in of things that could have been reduced. You didn't have to use them in the first place. Things that could have been recycled. So they performed this for middle schools. They performed it at Bret Harte Middle School and at Montera, and I'm really happy to say, and I'll mention a little bit more about it later. Montera Middle School was very inspired by this work. They joined the program, and on February 14th, they're going to have a Love the Earth type celebration where they kick off their cafeteria composting system that the students designed with some support from parents. And I'll talk more about how the students helped to design the campus food scrap diversion program. But Skyline's performance at Montera helped to inspire that work. So, here's the grand finale, the pyramid, the circus arts. There's probably hula hoops in the picture. All of the costumes and materials for the show were made out of found objects. We provided Skyline with a small grant to go to East Bay Depot for creative reuse and learn about that resource. And the drama teachers themselves, these are 30-year veterans. One of them's retiring this year. But they have just become the most amazing advocates for this on campus, in the community, and in their neighborhoods. So it's had this tremendous spillover effect where the students are really inspiring adults to lead in this area. Another area of edutainment that we're interested in doing, we're very interested in students having the opportunity to use their campus as a laboratory to engage in this work, and then take what they've learned from campus and carry it into their communities, carry it into their homes, carry it into the lower grades, so that there can be a broader community conversation. So we worked with Earth Team, and they produced these comic books that teach food scrap recycling in school cafeterias and at home in the kitchen. So we're working on a program to make these available in a buddy reading program, where high school students will work on reading with their buddies at elementary school. But the content of that reading will be this 4 R's message that we hope to spread. Just another interesting thing on the league, there's been a lot of studies on voting, and there have been correlations between parents who vote and the students' interest in politics. And the assumption was that there was a cause and effect, that it was because the parents voted, the kids were interested in politics. And when they unpacked that a little bit, they found out the opposite cause and effect was true, is that kids who are interested in politics and discuss it and become fired up about it, engaged in it, they talk about it at home, and it puts the pressure on the parents to get out and be a good representative. Yeah, so similarly, I hope that we're teaching our students to become leaders in this, in their own households and in their neighborhoods. So I'm going to give you a couple of case study examples of some schools and some programs that we've been involved with. This is Irvington High School. This is where I happen to teach, and I was here during this time before I got leased by the county office to lead some of this work. You'll all remember the rolling blackouts of the Enron-generated energy crisis in California. And households and businesses across the state were encouraged to save energy. So students in a computer technology, career technical education class at Irvington worked with their teacher to find ways to help the campus reduce energy. The district did a really interesting thing. They promised the schools that if they reduced energy, the district would share some of that savings with the schools. one of the biggest problems is that the people who are asked to save a resource aren't the ones who are often paying for it or benefiting economically, especially in school districts. So they did an interesting thing in Fremont. They were going to share some of the energy saving, the cost savings with the schools. So students at Irvington, they did a comprehensive energy audit of the school. They hooked up the watt meters to the transformers, like if you have a printer plugged in, it has that box at the transformer. Even when your printer's not running, that's drawing current. So they went and investigated all these vampire energy sources. They advocated for the district to buy the school a very inexpensive program to install on the school's server for all of the computers that would automatically shut off computers that haven't been used after a certain amount of time, and to turn off all computers at 8 o'clock at night. Through those efforts, Irvington cut its energy use by 33%. It was entirely led by student actions and student recommendations and the student findings from their energy audits. Irvington was recognized with the Flex Your Power Award from PG&E for this work. They were in the best overall categories. They weren't just, in the nice to have you play schools category. Best overall category with, folks like Jet Propulsion Laboratory and Northrop Grumman were some of the other statewide winners. So I think one of the things that's really important about this work is we right now in schools are asking students to solve problems that we all know the answers to. There's a big pressure to put those kids in a desk and have them fill in the correct bubble on the test that the adults already know is the right answer. We are doing very little to give students opportunities to solve real problems. And as you've seen today, there are plenty of real problems that we, as the adults, haven't figured out yet. So I think we need to really be thoughtful and mindful about giving students opportunities to practice solving these problems. So I don't know how they're going to turn 18 and all of a sudden have that skill if we've never engaged them in it. The other great thing about having them do this at school is they can practice and fail and learn and grow. So anyway, real work for students I think is real important. One of the things Irvington did as a continuation of this work is they started hosting e-waste collection events for the campus. There were two parts of this. One is, Irvington is in Fremont. It's at the edge of Silicon Valley. There's a lot of tech uses. The technology club was kind of concerned about the impact, but they also saw an opportunity to make some money, which is a big issue. So over the last, since 2007, Irvington has diverted over 215,000 pounds of e-waste at these quarterly e-waste collection events. A number of different student groups participate in. The school has an integrated technology academy. So they learn lessons about technology and its disposal in the life cycle there. They have a 9th grade benchmark project where students have to find an environmental problem and take some service action to address it. So a number of those students participate and learn through this type of event. This is the lineup of cars coming to their most recent e-waste event. So one of the important things about service learning is it's not just an activity. It often can be assigned, misassigned by teachers who assume that a student can't learn complicated material out of a textbook, so let's just have them do a service and they'll maybe naturally learn it. You have to embed the academics in it, you have to embed the language in it, you have to embed the data collection. So this is the chart of the e-waste. The blue line is CRT monitors, the pounds of CRT monitors. So when flat screens first started coming out and everybody was getting rid of their old big box televisions, that's the big peak. Students noticed that there were bumps every year, here, here, and here. Those are the bumps after Christmas and after the Super Bowl, when people go out and buy new stuff. So because of that, they made sure that they had extra outreach and extra capacity for those events. So a key piece of this work is having students study. And there's amazing things you can learn by studying your garbage. So this is a waste audit. We work with Earth Team. They show up with the bibs, the gloves, the goggles, the tarps. They pull a sample of garbage from campus, and kids sort it out, and they classify the different types of garbage. They identify a problem that they think they can do something about, and then they come up with an action plan. So sometimes it's implementing a recycling system, but most frequently what they find is that there are huge volumes and huge tonnages of food waste and paper waste that are going to landfills. So they get very inspired to set up cafeteria food waste diversion projects. Students are very disturbed to find that about a third of the food waste that's going into the garbage is unopened. Stuff that hasn't been eaten, hasn't been touched, stuff that's thrown away. So one school, they set up a program where the counselors would collect that uneaten food, have it available in the counseling office after lunch when kids who didn't eat or showed behavior problems. There was snack food available that had been put in a picnic basket. It's not dumpster dive, it's put in a picnic basket if it's untouched. Montera Middle School, they used their waste audit data to they found that 80% of their cafeteria waste could be composted, about 10% could be recycled, and about 10% was plastic films that needed to be landfilled. Based on that, they are redesigning their waste stations, making sure that the largest available waste station is for food waste, and that there is a very small receptacle available to garbage to reinforce the message of this is what our data shows and this is where you should put it. Kennedy High School in Fremont was able to cut their garbage service from 9 dumpsters per week to 2 because of the actions of the students. So over here on the left we have the cafeteria staff showing off their green waste in their cafeteria. The prep kitchens at the high schools prepare the meals for the attendance area, so they don't just prepare for the 2,000 students on campus, they prepare for 4,000 students in the area. And then this is the lead custodian, Liz North, and she has custom made a 2-bin litter pickup system where she's able to divert recyclable materials, whereas the standard one had 1 and wasn't able to be sorted. Another cool thing about the Kennedy story is they don't have problems with scavengers in their dumpster anymore because there's nothing in there that could have been recycled. So they used to spend a lot of staff time picking up the parking lot, and they don't have to do that anymore. Students are very fired up about school gardens. So this is Mandela School for Law and Public Service. They were studying environmental justice and the problem of food deserts. So this is the former Fremont campus in Oakland. It's now divided into small campuses. So Mandela School for Law and Public Service set up this system where they wanted to improve the campus mood by installing planter beds. Students use it as a micro-enterprise. They sell the fresh produce. They've raised $150 so far. And 2 of the students are setting up a business where they're going to build planter boxes for community members and train them in how to garden and compost at home. So it's kind of that triple bottom line idea. These students are going to create their own business right now because there's no jobs for teenagers. They're going to address this problem of fresh foods, and they're going to do this environmental project by teaching composting in the community. The boxes, by the way, are made out of salvage and reclaimed lumber, so another reuse opportunity. This is Castlemont Garden in East Oakland. The teacher uses it to teach a wide variety of science concepts. They also use it as a space to gather for peace in that community. It's a peace garden right next to the creek. They use it and overlap it with studies of literature. The boxes got rearranged. It's samplings from Whitman's poem, This Compost, if you're familiar with it. How can you be alive, you growths of spring? How can you furnish health, you blood of herbs, roots, and orchards? Behold this compost, behold it well. It grows such sweet things out of such corruptions. So yeah, students, the poem is very long, and they chose the 4 lines that would fit best on their compost system. So it's a composting system that they run on campus to produce soil amendment. This is another garden in Fremont at American High School. Raise your hand if you know what this pathway is lined with. Freeway posts, good guess. What's that? Test cylinder. It's a concrete test cylinder. So anytime you do a big engineering project, you're going to build a bridge, you have to pour 3 concrete test cylinders and test its strength. If they crush the first one and it passes, the other 2 just get sent off to be ground down. In the past, they were landfilled. The grinding of them takes a huge amount of energy to turn them into road aggregate. So they diverted a couple of tons and used them for pathway liners in their garden. The whole garden is made out of reused materials. I don't have a picture of it there, but they needed crushed rock for a pathway. So they went around to different homeowners, and just if they saw a rock garden in the front that wasn't in good shape, they said, we will remove your rock garden for free. And there were some homeowners who were planning on sending that stuff off to the dump. Students came in, collected it, and used it in their garden. This is Hayward High School. They built a pedal-powered tractor for their 2-acre organic farm and ecology center. The teacher behind setting up, in Hayward High, they're the home of the farmers, and they don't have any ag programs on campus until this program got started. The fine folks from San Jose chose Theo Hartman, the lead teacher there, as their Bay Area Green Star Teacher of the Year last year. So he's the guy who's behind this work and getting students to kind of reconsider that. These are two of the founding members of the Garden who are both now off at college studying environmental science and agriculture. So these lessons in school are leading students into careers. I want to give, I know there's 2 panelists here at the end, so I'm taking a little extra time and taking my time telling the stories a little bit. But I want to close with the story of Wood Middle School in Alameda. Wood Middle School in Alameda is 2 blocks from the San Francisco Bay. And up until a couple of years ago, the school hadn't been using that resource to engage the students. All of the learning was happening in the classroom. And you think about a science teacher keeping kids in the classroom when the bay's right there, it's kind of crazy, right? So they started getting involved in programming at the beach, in the relationship to studying litter. So you think about the water quality districts here and the trash hotspots, and every time it rains, all these storm drains that are dumping stuff out into the bay. We had Jennifer Stock from the National Marine Sanctuary come out and teach our teachers about the impact of marine debris on wildlife. Teachers took that back to their schools. They did a variety program. At Logan High School, they did a storm drain clean out and audit. They pulled out 36 full-size trash bags of garbage. When the students studied that, the primary thing they were finding in the garbage was the Mylar potato chip bags. So the students at Logan are trying to implement a new policy about how potato chips are sold on campus to reduce the impact of these potato chip bags. With middle school, they started around, these are middle school students, they started noticing around Halloween all these candy wrappers showing up on the street. So they did a letter writing campaign to the editor to encourage young people not to throw their candy wrappers on the ground because it's going to go into the bay, it's going to cause pollution, it's going to harm marine life. We worked with Save the Bay. The students went out and studied what makes a healthy ecosystem and habitat as part of their science classes. They also did litter indexes and litter cleanups while they were out on the water. The teacher later in the year had a unit on health and nutrition and how the students keep food journals of what they were eating. Used as an opportunity to teach chemistry. If there's an ingredient you can't pronounce, let's learn what that is. What is maltodextrin? I don't know. What part of the food pyramid is that? Is that a protein? Is that a lipid? Is it a carbohydrate? Is it not? Should we be eating it? So they learned about nutrition. And as an extension of that lesson that the teacher had always done about nutrition, because she was focused on this question of litter, she had the students investigate the packaging of the different types of food. So they did a classification study. She'd bring in a bag of garbage, and the students would have to learn how classification works by deciding what things go with which other things. And they could come up with any classification they want. As students reflected on this, they came to realize that students that were unhealthy for you to eat also usually had far more packaging. I mean, think about the difference between a Lunchable, plastic container with plastic wrap, thing wrapped in plastic and then wrapped in cardboard and wrapped in plastic again, compared to an orange in a sandwich. We'll cut off down there at the bottom. So because of that, the students did a nutrition campaign to help reduce litter. So it's kind of counterintuitive that, reduce litter, put your stuff in the right place, don't throw things away. They felt it would be better use of their time to do a nutrition campaign on campus. Part of that came out of what they were finding on their beach cleanup. So usually you see beach cleanups, you see kids walking around picking up stuff and putting it in trash cans. What makes this different is the clipboard. They're studying and categorizing and classifying what they're finding on the beach. What the students found was about 80% of the materials they were finding on the beach were food wrappers of some kind or another, some sort of food process or food packaging, and most of it was plastic. As an example, this is the number of bottle caps. Oh, and I just want to go back really quick. the beach, so you see this beach, it's not dirty. They have to look hard to find the litter. It's not like you go there and there's just like, you know, mountains of trash piled up on the beach. It's a very clean appearing beach. This is the number of bottle caps a student found in the tide line in 1 minute. One student, 1 minute, this many bottle caps in a place that looks clean. So it gives you a sense of the problem. So besides, you know, collecting the data, students also are doing this project in a really rich academic language environment. You go out with these teachers, they're talking about biotic and abiotic factors. They're talking about the nurdles. You guys know what nurdles are? They're those little kind of bits of plastic. You often see them kind of yellowed. They're yellowed because they're organophilic. They attach persistent organic pollutants. It's a film of organic pollution on the outside of the nurdles. So students are collecting those nurdles and shipping them off to a research lab in Tokyo, Japan called Pellet Watch, which is studying the spread of persistent organic pollutants in our watersheds. So that's the kind of academic vocabulary that students are engaged in and that they're hearing as they're on the beach. They're not just picking up trash. It's all in the context of this type of a project. So a couple of punchlines here. It matters in terms of how students perceive themselves. It matters in terms of the outcomes we're seeing for the environment, but it also matters academically. This is where they started doing this work. So this is the California Standards Tests in Science. Before they started doing service learning, they were scoring at 38% proficient or advanced in the science test. The year that they started doing service learning, they jumped up to 54%, and last year they were at 59%. The group that made the most dramatic gains were the Hispanic Latino kids, who went from 11% proficient or advanced to 69% proficient or advanced. The teachers attributed 100% to having their kids do projects that answer the question, why do we have to learn this? It's obvious when you're out at the beach why you're learning this, because you're solving a problem. The other thing, they have a high EL, English learner population, so sitting and learning this out of a textbook is much different than learning this academic language in the context of the place where you can touch, see, and feel it. So it really matters. Now this is where I know the audience I'm speaking to, League of Women Voters, and your influence on people's engagement in questions about policies. Wood Middle School and all of the middle schools in Alameda are threatened with closure. The board is going to take their final vote on closing all of the middle schools in Alameda for budget savings in March. So Wood Middle School, 2 blocks from the beach, engaging in this great research-based program that's having dramatic gains for students. Because of budget cuts, they're thinking of closing all the middle schools, going to a K-7 and 8-12 model with overcrowded elementary schools and overcrowded high schools. So, so it matters, the choices we make as adults. All right, so just a couple things. What can we do? We can advocate for schools and for policies that allow students to practice solving real problems. We can engage students in meaningful opportunities to serve and to learn. We can contribute our time and our talent to supporting these student-initiated projects. You know, I think it'd be great if all the schools had recycling, but I hope you don't go and set up that recycling system for them. I hope you help them set it up on their own. And always consider ways that we can invest in the future of our people and of our planet. So there are a lot of examples that I didn't share today, you know, even in spite of me taking more time because we're a luxury panel of 2. All of the stories I shared are on our website. There are some other cool ones, a creek cleanup-a-thon where students were studying Thoreau and Walden by reflecting at the creek and writing poetry, noticing that the creek was polluted. It's the photo here. They did a creek cleanup-a-thon, much like you would do a walk-a-thon. So these are students in an English class, and they used the funds from the donations they got from the community for picking up bags of garbage on the creek to buy materials to build outdoor recycling containers on campus. Which is really important because if you're a high school student, you're drinking a soda, you're not allowed to take that into your classroom where the recycling bin is. You have to leave it at the door or outside where there's just trash cans, so they really needed outdoor recycling bins. So that's on there. The parking lot I mentioned is on there, and a lot of other cool stories. So thank you so much for your time and the opportunity to be here, and I hope that you find some inspiration and leadership from the young people among us. So, thank you.